everyone, and welcome. Thank you for coming. My name is Camille Calatasti, and I'm the Dean for Institutional Research and Assessment Graduate Studies at Berklee College of Music. This event is a series of sessions that we host to share information about Berklee campus with our faculty here on the campus, and also with our partners at some of the schools with whom we have relationships, especially with our partners at Berklee Valencia, as well as partner schools who are part of the Berklee International Network. Our goal is always to share information about the curriculum, our pedagogy, and just our general philosophy. And we're especially interested in sharing with those who are teaching students who may later transfer over here to our campus in Boston. This event is being live streamed and also will be available afterwards on the berklee.edu/academic affairs website. So I want to give a special welcome to those of you joining us virtually, as well as a welcome to those of you who are here in the room with us today. Many people have worked hard to get this event together, especially to organize the technology. So I'd like to give a special thank you to Mary McClory, to Reggie Lofton, and to the production team. Please join me in thanking them. While you're eating, we will begin our session. We'll hear from our presenters, and our goal is always to finish about 10 minutes before the hour so that those of you who need to head off to class will have time to do so. Today's session focuses on conducting and the conducting courses that we teach here at Berklee as part of the curriculum for all of our undergraduate students. To begin our presentation, please join me in welcoming the Assistant Chair of Berklee's Composition Department, Greg Glancey.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Camille. I have the privilege of introducing two faculty members in our department, two conductors who bring a wide range of skill and experience to our students at Berklee. And today they're going to present on our core conducting 1 and 2 curriculum. These are conducting 211 and 212. And two versions of those are 216 and 217, which involve live keyboards. Basically the same content, just involving students who can play the keyboard. So before Tiffany and Eric began, I thought I'd say a few words about our course offerings beyond the core. And by the way, these core, as Camille mentioned, all Berklee students take these conducting core courses, and they become better musicians because of it. So conducting at Berklee is really one of the hidden gems. I mean, when you think about the programs offered at Berklee, one maybe doesn't think about conducting. But you can see from our course offerings that we have great depth in the area of choral, instrumental, and also newly added music theater conducting courses that Eric is the architect of those courses. One of the great things about Berklee, and I think one of the great things about our conducting here that sets us apart from all other undergraduate programs in the country, is the podium time that students get, the experience that they get in front of live musicians, whether that be small ensembles, choruses, full orchestras, and even the scoring stage for TV and film productions. You don't get this anywhere else, especially at the undergraduate level. So we offer minors for our students, whatever degree program they're doing here at Berklee. They could get a minor in music education conducting, choral conducting, contemporary, and contemporary would mean the scoring stage, maybe an orchestral pit for Broadway productions, or even ballet. And Eric's newly crafted music theater conducting minor. So that's a little bit about our program. Nobody wants to hear me continue to talk. Let's welcome Eric Stern and Tiffany Chang.
We're just going to pontificate a little bit by way of intro, but we're not going to do a lot of talking. We're going to hopefully do a lot of doing. Obviously, anytime you have more than one person making music, someone's got to take control. Someone's got to take the lead at any given moment. And as music became more complicated, more involved larger forces, became more nuanced, the role of the performer leader, the singer who was singing the loudest, or the Jean-Baptiste Lully who was banging his pole on the ground, much to his own detriment, look it up. Eventually, the person who was leading as a concert master or behind the keyboard, the job split into someone who did nothing but lead. It became essential because music got too complicated. And as a result, a sort of shorthand developed, a code, if you will, that all musicians understand. And they understand the movement, they understand what it means. Once the conductor became independent and alone, suddenly the movements that he started to make became standardized, and people began to recognize them, and it gave him the ability not only to just deal with the nuts and bolts, how to start, how to stop, that kind of thing, but also began to take on an interpretive nature. So the conductor actually became more than just a timekeeper, but actually the arbiter of musical taste, of how this piece goes, of how it's phrased, and someone who controls the whole larger scheme of the thing as well as on a macro and micro level. So at some point, someone said, well, we need to extend our reach a little bit. The stick came out, and suddenly, metaphorically and literally, we were able to reach farther than we used to. And then beginning of the 20th century, the sort of the conducting superstar developed, and we had the Wagner-Karajan's and the Bernsteins and the Tchaikovskys, for better or for worse. The point is that this shorthand, this code that we need to teach is important. It allows us to communicate wordlessly with using our arms, our hands, our eyes, and not make noises ourselves. It's a very strange position to be in, conducting, in that sense. You're not performing something, but you're enabling other people to perform something. And that's a very interesting mindset to try to convey to pianists, for instance, who try to conduct everything as if they were playing everything. No, you're creating a space for it to be played. In addition to the physical act of conducting, it's also all the preparation, all of the score study, all of the musicology involved, all of the psychology involved, knowing how instruments are played. And it's a very multifaceted enterprise, obviously. But here, we are teaching nuts and bolts about the actual vocabulary of conducting. One last quick thought about that. My students sometimes come to me and say, I went on YouTube and I saw so-and-so conduct such and such, and they're not moving at all like you told me to. And I always say, yes, in essence, they learned the same things we're learning now. We're learning vocabulary. We're learning to walk before we can run, before we can fly. Certain conductors reach a level of poetry or artistry that takes them above and beyond the beat patterns as we know them. And I say, that's good for you. I can't wait till you get there. But right now, we're learning the same things that they learned. So we're just here to talk you through the very basics of it. And I think we should get to work. Tiffany, what do you got?
Great. So our first part of this presentation involves a little bit of audience participation. So I know that some of you are eating your lunch, but I'd like you all to just stand up for me, just right where you are. And I'd like you to just relax and your hands at the side and just sort of swing just relax your shoulders. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to just lift both of your arms. Don't do it yet. Lift both of your arms and just let them fall. And 1, 2, go. Right, let gravity do its work. Let's do it again. The only work that you have to do is the going up part, lifting your arms part. 1, 2, go. Great, and now let's add one more thing. Can you please breathe in on the way up? And what are you going on the way down? Breathe out, right? Okay, and ready, go. Okay, great, you just did your first conducting gesture. So let me just break that down a little bit for you. The first thing that I asked you to do is the going up part, right? Lifting your arms. That is what we call, the fancy word for that is called the preparation. That preparation is preparing what's going to happen next. And that thing that happens next is what we call the beat or the ictus. And where the ictus is where your arms fall to where you started. That point in time is called the beat, and that's where we feel where the beat is. Now, your arms don't just fall and then get to the beat and stay there, right? What does it do after that? Let's try it again. And ready, go. There's a little bit of swinging that happens after that, and that is all very natural. And that is the third part of the conducting gesture that is called the rebound, and it's a natural bounce that happens after you hit the beat. Yeah, great. You can all have a seat. Thank you for doing that. So the three parts of the conducting gesture is the preparation that prepares the beat, and then the rebound that comes as a result of the beat. Now, you may say, well, if the beat is down here, it's really hard to see, right? So what we do as conductors is we put the beat where people can see, sort of in this general chest to belly button area right here. And depending on how high or low you are, your area of conducting is going to vary. So the three parts of the beat now starts right here on this imaginary table right here. So you would do the exact same gesture, preparation, ictus, and then the rebound. You bounce off of this imaginary table. So you can all just do this in your seat, yeah? Imagine this table sort of around your waist level, yeah? And you can use both hands, or you can just use the right hand. Use both hands, think about doing the exact same gesture. Breathing on the way out, up, and breathing out on the way down. And ready, prepare. Boom, great. Yeah, so that is, in essence, what we do for every single beat, the three parts of the beat pattern. The three parts of the beat. And we can do a lot with showing whether the beat is loud, and we just do a bigger gesture. If the beat is loud, we just do a huge gesture. If the beat is soft, we just do a smaller gesture. If the beat is short, we show a preparation that is quick. If it's very legato, we show something that is slower. Yeah, so there's all the variations we could do with that.
I'm glad you used the word table. We didn't rehearse, by the way. We absolutely, that's the same terminology I use. I also say, imagine there's a bass line here. Not a bass line, but a bass line. And in Berklee, you have to be careful. And that table, that bass line is where everything happens. And we talk about the exact same things. Conducting teachers vary from teacher to teacher about the specifics of the way they use their wrist, the way they hold the stick. These are things that are personal. But we all agree on this, the three indications of the beat. Also, once you know what the beat is, then we deal with the beat pattern. How do we know we're in 2? How do we know we're in 3? Again, there's slightly different philosophies, but mine is, and you can jump in and correct me, my feeling is the first and last beat are in front of you. There's the first beat of the measure and the last beat. And the last beat is high, so we see the bar line. Bar line, bar line, bar line, there it is. I see it every time. Anything else that happens besides the first and the last beat is a detour on the way to those two events. So if I wanted to do 3, I'd start here. Notice the preparation, the ictus, and the rebound. Then 2 on the outside, same thing, and then 3 back in the middle, and the high bar line. 1, 2, bar line. Bar line, which is very helpful if you're counting. 43, 44, okay? And if it's 4, you delay it even further. 1, in, out, bar line. And you notice I said in, out, not left, right, because the hands, if they're working together, work in mirror fashion, okay? Something that I said to some students, they're actually surprised. Oh, yes, my hands do work like that. Yes, they do. They're hardwired. So that's the beat, as Tiffany described it, and this is the beat pattern. Strangely enough, I think the easiest is 4, the next easiest is 3, 2 is kind of difficult and has lots of intricacies, and 1 is near impossible. So, I mean, that's my feeling, is the more beats you have to work with, the better. Anyway, this will all start to add up to something.
Yeah. Well, so I'd like us to now look at this next slide, and I would like to invite us all to sing the Star-Spangled Banner. And the Star-Spangled Banner is a song that is in 3. So we're all going to conduct a 3 pattern. So let's just start with practicing the 3 pattern together. So as Eric has said, we're going to start from going down, and then to your right, and then up. So can everyone just try that? Yeah, here we go. Starting with a preparation. And ready, breathe. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Excellent. Great. All right, so what I'd like to do is I'd like to sing through the song while conducting in 3. And you'll notice that at the end, the last 2 lines, that there are some words that are underlined, right? Those are, if you remember the song, those are the places in which we pause and we hold, right? And so in conducting 1, we also talk about how we hold fermatas and how we stop on the fermata and how we get out of the fermata. So on those underlined words, you're just going to stop. And then when we restart, you're going to start with another preparation on the next beat, and then we're back in it again. So there are 3 moments in which you have to stop. So I'm just giving you a little quick heads up. So shall we try it all together? Conducting in 3. Now, as you notice, if you can remember the tune, we start with a pickup. So we start on beat 3. So, oh, say. So we're going to start the preparation on the beat before that, which is beat 2. So we're going to conduct beat 2 as the preparation and then start the song.
And unlike the pop world, we don't count things off. You only get one preparation.
Right.
It's the beat before we sing.
Yeah. Okay, so is that a good pitch?
Yeah, sure. What was it? I've forgotten it
I
already.
think it's, oh,
Oh,
say, can you? All right, here we go. Everyone get ready? Yeah, I'm going to start with the preparation on beat 2, which is to your right. And ready, prepare.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watch were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still bum ba bum bum bum. Oh, say does that star-spangled, here it comes, banner yet wave?
Prepare.
O'er the land of the free
Prepare.
and the home of the
And you stop by cutting off.
brave.
Inward circle, right? Just draw an inward circle, and then we've cut off the sound.
And I think you have to yell play ball after that, if I remember
Right.
correctly. Yeah.
Great.
So you'll notice her cutoff is basically, I don't know why this works, but you actually literally cross your own trail. It's the minute you've crossed your trail is a cutoff, and it works. And I've actually tried with classes going, nope, that's not it, and they know it. This is it when you cross.
When you finish the circle.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Finish drawing the circle with both hands, with one hand, or with the other hand. It doesn't really matter.
Exactly.
Yeah. Great.
There you go. So we've talked about stopping, starting, restarting. Those are all things that you're going to need. Another possibility on Banner Yet Wave is Banner Yet 1, 2, and give a cutoff if you wanted. And then you'd have to give another 2. Or the land. There are all kinds of ways of doing it. And we actually, in my classes, try all the
All
different
different
ways of
ways.
doing
Exactly.
it. Exactly.
Yeah.
But you were very clear. I knew exactly what you were doing.
But the key thing to remember is that the preparation is always the beat before the next sound. So wherever the next sound is on beat 3, if it's on beat 3, the preparation is going to be on the beat before, which is beat 2.
To even carry that further, I tell my classes that conducting is an anticipatory art. It's something that you do. You have to know where everything happens and signal where everything happens before it happens. If you're in the moment and right on time, you're late.
Right.
And you find yourself thinking as a conductor out of phase.
Right.
You find yourself planning the next move all the time, and you start to learn to think that way. And our
Yeah.
students start to learn to think.
Yeah,
that
and
way.
I often tell my students that if you're living in the moment,
It's
you're
gone.
too late.
Yeah,
You have to be
exactly.
living in the future. You have to be thinking about the future.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly right. So we cover a lot of things in conducting 1. We do downbeat exercises. We do the StarSpangled Banner. We do a Bach chorale, which is an exercise in stopping and restarting on various beats. We do the Revel Pavane from Ma Mère Rouleau, which is a lot of fun. We do Petit Poussé also from that, which has some slightly mixed meters, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, that kind of thing. But by the time we get to Beethoven's First, which is what we're going to look at now, we've actually talked a lot about not only how beats work, but also things you need to know about the orchestra. Score order. How does a score set up? What families are going first? And within each family, how are they listed? High to low, sometimes, not necessarily in the brass. French horns come first. We discuss transpositions, what instruments transpose, what don't. How can you look at a page and say, oh, that's a French horn playing that B flat, so it's not really a B flat I'm hearing. We talk about seating, because you have to know, even though we have this lovely software, which we're about to demonstrate to you, we pretend that we have an orchestra in front of us. So we have to know where people are. And I talk about the 4 quadrants, especially in terms of the Beethoven. We have the string section on the ground floor. We have the winds and the brass up above on the second floor. And by that I mean simply that you have to look over the heads of the strings to reach them. You also have the strings. You have the higher strings on your left, which does not seem right, but there's a good reason for it. Lower strings on the stick side. And we talk about how to engage everyone you look at.
So when we talk about cueing these various different parts of the orchestra, we have to help the students realize, even though we're in a classroom, that there are these imaginary players in front of them. If they're the strings, they're right in front of you, as Eric said, and then we have to imagine, and that's usually very feasible with the class sitting right in front of the student. However, they have to imagine that the wind players who are sitting beyond the students in the class, that they are behind them. And so when we talk about cueing, we talk about changing the height of our table. So if our strings, if the people right in front of me, that's the strings table were here, where it's very comfortable, then if we're going to conduct the people behind them, we would elevate our table as if, and heighten our gaze to look at our imaginary friends behind the class. So there's a lot of changing the height of our conducting.
We actually talk about panning, getting there ahead of time so that you're there, rather than, because again, the conductor's job is not to be stealthy. A stealthy conductor is a bad conductor.
Right, and and you have to get there before the winds play, because you have to give them a cue. And what a cue is really a preparation. We all know what a preparation is by now. We do it before the sound happens. So a cue is just a preparation that you give to a specific person or a section.
Here's a question I asked my class. What's the most important part of your body and equipment that you cue with? And I know you know the answer. It's the eyes. If the eyes are not met, it's not a cue. This is not a cue. This is, strangely enough, a cue. You have to meet eye contact with every one of your players when you're cueing them.
Right, so knowing where they sit is very important, because you can't just point in random places.
Now, you probably don't know this about this software, but it's actually configurable so that people sitting on conductor's left can sit at conductor's left screen, people center left, right, center right, help me, and right can actually play their different parts, and you have to coordinate them together. Some of the pieces it's very successful, some it's a little harder, but we do use this a lot, especially I use it in conducting one.
Right, so should we try a little bit?
Oh my gosh, yes, Beethoven, oh my gosh. You're my orchestra, but just pretend I'm doing it well. This is the last bar of the slow introduction, which is a subdivided 4, which means it's basically a 4 with a little cousin on each beat, and then we shift gears and go into allegro. I'm going to act like crazy, pretend that there's an orchestra in front of me. We'll see how risible it is. Here we go, ready? Reach for the woodwinds, there we are. Strings. Once again. String twirl. Big two. Big two. Sing for me, please. Anyway, that's kind of... Thank you. The point is all those moves are planned. I go where I need to be before it happens. I think that's the point we're trying to make. And also trying to suggest articulation and dynamics.
Right, yeah, and also you'll notice that with the software, the reason why we're putting this on the screen is so that you can see what the students are using as they are performing it in the class. And what I am essentially doing is I'm following Eric beat by beat. And if he decides to change the tempo, I can go with him and go faster or go slower. So this is one of the great softwares that we use in our classes, which mimics the real live ensemble situation. And we have several computer stations, and each student can go on one of those computers, and we can have 8 computer stations all doing this at the same time with 8 different players, and it could be at times not together, like in real life.
And again, that's part of the fun of it, is that you say to the student, okay, what was wrong? Who wasn't with you? Whose voices were in the wrong place? And this is, again, a very good first step towards being able to use your ears and open your ears in a session and fix things. Berklee students are supposedly going to go out in the street and be able to lead film scoring sessions and sweetening sessions and pop sessions. You need to hear what's coming back at you and fix it. Can I just quickly circle back, just quickly for articulation and dynamics, because you talked about it a little bit. Again, the thing about dynamics is it's a complete analog to size. So big is loud, soft is small. One of the interesting things you see with students sometimes is like, no, it's too loud, it's too loud. And, and you see it a lot. It's like, well, you're too loud. And the other thing, just quickly about articulation, just to make it a little bit more specific. Articulation is about the consistency of speed that a stick has between beats. So it's not the tempo. The tempo is the distance in time between beats. But articulation is how smoothly the stick goes from one beat to the other, which I think you said, but I just wanted to lay it out so that a true legato, it's like the stick never changes speed. But in a less than a legato, or marcato, or staccato, the sticks move, even though I'm keeping the beat the same, is moving unevenly between the beats. Do you all see that, the distinction? So this is something we work on. Working on a real legato is one of the biggest challenges of conducting one, to get an honest legato, because students tend to swing. Just let their arms swing around, and you need to have to control it.
And it's very tempting to want to feel the beat all the time, and they kind of attack the beat whenever they want to do. They want to attack the beat, even if they're trying to conduct legato. They attack the beat. They attack the beat because they feel like that beat needs to be visible. But as Eric said, if the tempo or if the speed of the conducting is very fluid, the audience, the ensemble should be able to predict where the beat is going to be. And I always tell my students to think about dipping their baton in honey, and then trying to conduct with this sort of in this jar of honey, in this huge jar of honey, and then they feel really this resistance that they don't really feel.
Yeah, I talk about like pulling your, like the feeling when you enter a wading pool, when it's just at your ankles and then suddenly it's up to your thighs, that feeling of having to push through water. The other thing I tell students sometimes is that the real legato sort of emulates what it's like to pull a bow across a string. You're actually sort of emulating what it is to be a string player in some ways. So anyway, we have lots more, but that's conducting one. Yeah. End of term.
And then,
Christmas vacation.
And then we move on to conducting 2. In conducting one, we give the students a broad spectrum of all the skills that they need in their toolbox, the basic skills. In conducting 2, we take a couple of slivers of the conducting spectrum, and we focus on those things. So one of the items that we focus on is how to conduct with a soloist in the room. So the conductor becomes not only the leader of the ensemble, but the middle person, the mediator between the ensemble and a soloist. And for us, we deal with an instrument soloist as well as a singer soloist. So we use various repertoire, various concerti, and various operatic arias and various recitatives to help the students explore this very specific kind of conducting.
The other big change between conducting 1 and conducting 2 is conducting 1, basically, for the most part, everything's on a grid. It's basically, there's a tempo, there's a click there. Not a click literally, but you can feel it. Suddenly in conducting 2, we're in areas of tempo fluidity, where suddenly it's like, if you were to quantize this romantic piece, it would sound robotic and wrong. Tempo is a fluid concept. So that's the next thing, leap. And some students really have trouble hearing it and saying, where's the beat? Well, it's 1, 2, 3, 1. It's not
Right.
metronomic.
Yeah, and that fluidity is something that physically the students have to really get used to, and we spend a lot of time manipulating the beat so that the beat is not the same from beat to beat. And
In our casual conversation before we got up here, we both shared the experience that we make our students sing these things. It's a very good way, because you can't do it until you know it. I'm paraphrasing you, but you can't conduct something that you don't know intimately.
right,
So
exactly.
we also both insist on that.
Right. So, and the other sliver that we take out of the conducting spectrum is conducting more challenging 20th century works. And we usually do that at the end of the semester, and we use a repertoire that has a lot of odd meters, changing meters,
Asymmetric beats.
asymmetric beats, complicated rhythms, and we use a lot of Stravinsky. Almost every single Stravinsky piece could work, and the students get really challenged by not just having to think about the complex rhythms that they see on the page, but moving in a complex way with different sizes of the beat, asymmetric meters, and changing the meters every single bar. So that's the second part
Yeah,
of
my
this.
Stravinsky passage is 1 minute and 20 seconds, and we spend 3.5 weeks on it. I mean,
Exactly,
it's really a lot of fun. But,
Yeah.
And I think after they're done, the students go like, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I know that. And I said, yeah, now let's learn the whole piece.
Yeah.
But it doesn't happen.
And they really get to know it because we spent so much time on it in the class.
Exactly. Oh gosh, am
Right.
I going to go tell?
Okay, yes,
Oh, this is going to be painful. I'm going to sing. I'm also blind, so I'm making it bigger. The diva is in.
Right, so this is one of the pieces that we use in our Connecting Two class. It is a really famous aria from Puccini's La Boheme. And it is Mimi's first aria, where she sings about herself, introduces herself to Rodolfo. So we're going to sing and conduct through a little bit of this.
My apologies, Giacomo. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And you'll see as we perform this that the tempo varies, the tempo is very fluid, and there's more communication necessary between the conductor and the soloist. There's a little bit of following, there's a little bit of leading, and it's really a collaborative experience.
We do discuss in class, like, who's in charge at any given moment, and that's something that you negotiate in rehearsals, and
Right.
something is just, there's no other way to do it. Okay.
Okay, here we go.
I hope so. Sola mi voglio pranza da me stessa, non vado sempre a messa, ma prego assai il Signor. Viva sola, soletta, là in una bianca cameretta, guardo sui tetti e in cielo. And we're going to stop there. But it's interesting to discuss who was in charge where, so let's go back and look at it.
Yeah, well, I think that in this particular passage, both of us are in charge at different places. You notice that with a singer, a really important thing about a singer is different than an instrumentalist, is that the singer has to breathe in order to get another phrase out. So the conductor's job is to watch and look for the singer's breath. If the singer needs time to breathe, you must give it to them. And so you notice that I stop a lot to allow time for Eric to breathe, right? So
Thank you. My family thanks you.
And there are times in which I must go with his line, because his line, it has the text might want to move forward, and I follow what he's doing in the text, and he may be a little bit free, and some of this passage is very speech-like, so I must allow him to be free, and yet be with him beat by beat.
On the other hand, you'll notice it's basically two phrases, this passage. At the end of the first phrase, start the second phrase. There's no way that the diva can start it. There's no way. I have to take it from the conductor. And so we go through it and say, well, who starts here? Who starts here? We have to work it out.
And you'll also notice that I'm looking at Eric the whole time.
I'm
So the
looking at
eye
you.
contact, as we had talked about, the eye contact is really important. That's the main way in which musicians communicate in a chamber group, in a large ensemble, or in this setting. So, should we
Do it again? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I can only get better.
And feel free to do it differently this time.
You got it.
As divas all do. Right?
We do. Sola mi fu, io pranza da me stessa, non vado sempre a messa, ma prego assai il Signore. Viva sola, soletta, là in una bianca cameretta, guardo sui tetti e in cielo.
Very good. So, she sang it different that time, and I had to adjust what my beats looked like and how long my beats are. And you notice that he took some time, Eric took some time at the end of the phrases this time, and what I had to do was I had to make my beats longer. And I did not necessarily just stop on the beat, but I kind of stretched the beats out, and I went to the next beat, stretched that beat out. So we also talk about stretching the beat to make the beat longer and to accommodate the singers who want to take time at the end of a phrase or at the end of a bar. So in this next phrase, we are going to show some very specific places in which the stretching of the beat is super helpful.
You're also going to see some very creative octave jumping because I do not have these notes. Here we go.
So here's going on.
Ma quando vien lo cielo, il primo sole mio, il primo bacio dell'aprile è mio. Il primo sole è mio. Cermolia und was? Yeah.
Nice job.
Thank you. You too. This has never been a dream of mine to be a soprano, but
Yeah, but we both Eric and I actually do exactly what Eric has done in the class. We sing and we play the software, so we actually get the orchestra as well as the solo singer, and we make the students follow us.
and the diva's different every time.
Yes, the different singer every single time.
Can I just talk a little bit about the stretching?
Sure, of course.
Just for the heck of it?
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
So what I tell my students, and you saw Tiffany do it brilliantly, is that my students tend to get to the top and then start on the way down. And I say, oh, no, you've already blown it, because, again, you've given away your preparation. Your preparation is your currency. It's the coin you can spend. And if you give away the coin, you got nothing left. So, il primo, and I go, ah, you've lost. Furthermore, if they rush the diva, and I think you know this, the diva will hold it even longer, because that's what divas do. So if you're in a conducting situation and you don't hold it, she'll just sit there and go, no, you screwed up. Il primo, and you wait at the top, and then allow the drop to give the next downbeat.
Yeah.
So it's not only waiting, it's where you wait. So you
Right.
still have currency to spend in terms of preparation.
Yeah, and a lot of students, they do wait at the top, but they just stop at the top.
Mm-hmm.
Primo, and then they just stop. And it's really hard to start again and come back down. So I always tell my students to keep moving the baton, even ever so slightly at the top. So instead of just stopping at the top, you would go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you can change direction at
Absolutely.
any time.
I always felt it's unfair of a conductor to expect an orchestra to hold something and you just to stick. I mean, even just the slightest movement on the bottom gives the sense of we're all doing this together. I'm with you. I'm not abandoning you.
Right, and then the music stays alive.
Exactly.
At that point.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Where are we now?
So I think we're at the end
Okay.
here.
Well, let's. Do you have any other particular problems that you notice with students? I'm thinking that when students are first working, I notice that, especially in conducting one, when they're conducting, they go to turn a page, and the right hand stops completely. It's like the part of the brain that you needed to make that work is now being borrowed to turn a page. So we work a lot on just being able to keep the beat going and do whatever you want to do. You guys know about the chip and dip exercise?
Yeah.
Yeah, a chip and dip is so much fun. You just conduct, and then you just walk down the buffet and go, oh,
Yeah.
look.
Yeah.
And what happens is either the hand stops, which often happens, or you end up dipping.
Right, you're dipping with the, yeah. Right.
Pulsing. So learning to separate the hands, again, that's something where we all sort of differ. A lot of people teach conducting one, only use the stick. I teach both hands, but then I teach how to separate eventually.
Right. Yeah.
I think, and we've all talked with each other, at least one other conducting teacher in here. We talk to each other, we know how we vary, but we also agree on on the basics, and we share stories and things like that.
Yeah, and the hand independence is something that we do teach in our classes.
Yeah.
And we talk about using the left hand to show cues, to show dynamics. We can show gradual changes in dynamics. Very simple gradual going up and coming down, and that is challenging for the students.
Another challenge I found with students is when they go to pivot, they lose their beat. It's like the beat, you know what I'm talking about? That they've left the beat there and they can't find it again. So I talk a lot about the screen in front of you. Imagine a Steadicam bolted to your stomach, and the screen travels with you wherever you go. So I can actually, I can travel up while giving a downbeat, or travel down while giving an upbeat. The screen is what's important, keeping the beat intact, rather than thinking of the beat as something abstractly in space that, oh, how do I get my 2 when I have to turn this way?
Right.
So I find that a lot of,
Yeah.
there's a lot of this going on in for the first level of conducting, figuring out how to keep
Right,
it
and
up.
also something that I think we all focus in our classes is giving opportunities for the students to evaluate their own work. And because it's
Well
so
said.
different to watch yourself as from an outsider's point of view. So we often videotape our students or ask the students to videotape themselves.
And we have mirrors that I make them stand in front and say, look, see what you just did?
And they're always shocked at, oh, I did not know that I just did that. It felt totally different. Or I did not want to do that. And that's a starting point for them to learn, to change. And so that's very, very important.
By the way, I think that's true in all music making. I had a teacher who kept telling me I was over pedaling, and I didn't believe him. And then he opened up his cabinet, and there was a TAC running, and he played it back to me. I said, oh, I'm over pedaling. So that kind of feedback you need in almost every form of music making.
Yeah, and I always make that connection too. I always say, in your solo playing, in your chamber music playing, if you're a composer, you always record your work, and you reflect upon that. And it's the same thing in conducting because it's a performance medium.
Tiffany, thank you. This is a lot of fun to do this with you.
Yeah.
Pleasure.
Thank you all so much. Before our speakers leave the stage, I actually have one question for Tiffany and Eric. And I'm wondering if you could just speak for a moment about the software, sort of what software you recommend, what we use here.
This is software that we inherited. It's quite wonderful in many ways in that it allows students to actually play different parts, and it makes you honest, makes the student honest, having to keep everybody together, which when you're playing, there are virtues to recordings too, and I use them as well, but this actually forces you to actually hear the results. Conductors sometimes don't believe that every move you make has a consequence, and using this software, it's the Notion software, and using it shows that.
Right, and this software actually comes with a textbook. So this textbook is called Notion Conducting, and it has, I don't know, about 20 scores in it, and all the scores are digitized within the software, and the software comes with the book, and you can install the software, and when you just pull down that menu.
Change the view,
Yeah, or you can pull down the menu where there's all the scores.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they are.
So those are all the scores that are
And we
available.
have a few more in our back pocket. But
Right. So the students have a chance to load this up on their own computers and practice and explore the score in this way. And it has this very unique feature of allowing the player of the software to follow a conductor, and that's unique to this software that you don't get in any other music notation software.
I was just showing you can go through different views so that some people can be playing woodwinds, some people can be playing a conductor left center. Percussion, I don't think you're going to see much there. No, I didn't think so.
Right.
Strings.
And on the right-hand side, you'll see, or sorry, on the left-hand side, you'll see that there's this mixer. And what you can do is you can mute or solo a specific instrument, and what you end up playing is only that instrument, or without that instrument,
Now,
whatever
for
you
opportunity,
choose.
we had in fact muted the soprano so that I could be the soprano. But
Right,
she's
yeah.
actually in there somewhere if you wanted her.
Right, yeah. So it's a lot of possibilities.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Please join me in thanking our speakers one more time, Eric Stern and Tiffany Chang. Okay. Thank you all and have a great day.